I'm Jim Check. You're watching Now Media. We're going to go super fast today. Iain, still under the weather. He's about to rate it. If his head flops down on the desk, you know what happened to him. Iain Burns with us out there in Ottawa, feeling the ills of this British superbug or something. I don't know what's going on. But we're going to try and get through it as quick as possible. Yet another Conservative MP crosses over to the Liberals. Liberals look to get their majority without an election. Some cry CCP interference on that. And it's bonus time in Ottawa as MPs scurry off for the large Christmas break. And Mexico preparing for CUSMA. While Jolie, we're not sure what's going on. Why is Canada trying to hitch a wagon to the crumbling EU? First Nations say not a chance on pipeline or carbon capture. More fraud, waste, incompetence, or corruption investigations being blocked by the Liberals. Will that high-speed rail go ahead? Real estate in Canada in turmoil as the bubble the Liberals helped create is popping. Alberta separatists get a green light on their movement. Will Aaron Gunn challenge EB? Trump says, be careful, fools. Maduro sings to the people as pressure mounts. He must be getting his dancing lessons from Olivia Chow. Is the EU falling apart? And Grok to replace teachers in El Salvador. We're going to do this one on steroids and on speed to help Iain make it through the day. But we're going to kick it off right away here with Mark Carney, and he's talking to the Liberal caucus as they're about to break for Christmas. And as yet another Conservative MP crosses over, and they're putting them one seat away from the majority they need.
Entremont. Chris Entremont. Chris, I want to thank you for bringing your experience, your ideas, your energy to our common mission of protecting safe communities, of growing a strong economy, of creating new opportunities for families in Nova Scotia and right across Canada. I hope you were up for the Taoiseach. Chris and Michael, I mean, look at this crowd. Your family. We're all over for Christmas. You are going to have a much better time spending Christmas with us than Christmas with the cranks. We are all about Santa, not about the Grinch. And Liberals, we welcome people from every demographic. We span generations. In fact, I found out recently that I am generationally fluid. My Spotify listening age is 44, which is young, by the way, if you're my age. So for those, a product surely of playing Coda Pirate and Down with Webster at our rallies. Le soir des élections.
So, he's one seat away.
Looks like he's going to get it as well. It's not. It's not really a great look for Canadian democracy, though, is it? As he sits there and smiles.
Pretty bad, actually.
You know what? He's very pleased with himself, isn't he, Mark Carney? But it really doesn't look good because this guy, you know, theoretically, our Westminster system, it's a individual party as a secondary thing. You're supposed to elect your individual to represent you. Yeah. Is there anybody that really thinks that that's? Do you think the people of this Markham riding, do you think that they really backed this guy in particular, Michael Mann? That was they wanted him, not so much worried about the party. People vote along party lines. We've known this for a long time now. So it is a kind of, you know, it's a subversion of the democratically expressed will of the people of that riding. And it's not, and also this is, people are going on about Chinese interference and whatnot. Bear in mind, this is the same riding that chap was outed as, what did he say? He said he endorsed a Chinese bounty or something like that to get somebody arrested. Do you remember that? That was that riding. Wow. And the Liberals, Mark Carney just refused to disavow. He refused to
Yeah.
remove that chap from the Liberal Party. He lost to Michael Marr, and now he's got Michael Marr. I mean, it stinks, doesn't it? It's as usual with almost everything related to democracy involving the Liberal Party. It stinks. Absolutely reeks.
Well, I mean, Canada suffered under 10 years of the Justin Trudeau Liberals with, like finagling with the NDP, which prolonged that government. And now we're seeing this kind of like fancy footwork again. I don't know if there's a precedent for this. Three Conservatives now so far, really? Well, two that have crossed over and one that's just kind of sitting aside,
He
right?
want apparently word on the street is that he fully intended to join the
Yeah.
Liberals, but then at the last minute decided that he would just resign instead. I mean, God knows what kind of skullduggery went on there to prevent him from actually joining.
And then there is, like you said, there is some cry out there saying that there may be some Chinese interference, as this rookie conservative, Michael Ma. And that was like he just attended the conservative Christmas party as well. It was kind of weird. And then maybe he wanted to be in two Christmas parties at the same time. But just as they were adjourning for that 6 week recess, he decides to join the Liberals and attends their Christmas party as well. It's really kind of odd, right? And
That tells you, if you were wondering, just how serious the cost of living crisis really is. That even MPs earning $200,000 a year or whatever still going to two Christmas parties because they can't afford groceries. Pretty big deal.
if that's what it is. But maybe they should be looking at something where they say if people want to cross over, they have to actually hold a by-election, because that is not the will of the people. This is, who knows what's going on there. But
Now and
seems
then
odd.
throughout history, a few people have done it in the Westminster system. I mean, you can talk about the American, French, and all that, but whatever. Let's talk about the Westminster system. They've done it, like Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill did it twice. He went over to the Liberal Party, and then he left the Liberal Party back to the Conservatives. Winston Churchill, I'm sure people will agree, he was condemned as a traitor and all the rest of it back then. But Winston Churchill, even back then, was an independent personality. He had his own aura, his own team of supporters. And he could go to the people and say, look, I'm Winston Churchill. I'm changing parties. These are the reasons. And it almost made sense. It was like, okay, this guy, Michael Marr, nobody even knows who he is. Like nobody, I'm sure Mark Carney had to be told who he was before he went and did that, before he defected and he went and did that speech. It's like, okay, so he's called Michael Marr, he's, born in Hong Kong, moved to, he's from BC as well, by the way. So yeah, it's not the same, is it? If old Winnie does that, or some like titan figure who almost transcends the party, I would say Mark Carney transcends the Liberal Party. You could say that. Then it makes more sense for those to change parties. This guy is like an absolute nobody. He's just like a backbencher that's just won an election just now, 5 minutes ago. He's a complete non-entity. For him
Here,
to change parties, he's only in the House of Commons because he had the blue rosette
yeah.
on his
Here,
chest. That's the only reason he's there.
they have tried numerous times to put private bills to restrict this practice of crossing over without success. And elections are an essential part of the opportunity for voters to express their democratic preferences. But when parliamentarians cross the floor, they unilaterally negate the will of their electors. And that's from New Democrat leader Don Davies. He's not a big fan of this either. This is the betrayal of the trust of the First Order. And Davies, in a 2022 sponsored bill C-254, an act to amend the Parliament of Canada, stated that any floor crosser is deemed to have vacated the seat and ceases to be a member of the House, enforcing a by-election, what I just said there. That seems to be the democratic way. It seems to make the most sense. And I would have thought, there's two things here. I would have thought they would have been targeting NDP candidates. But as Pierre Poilievre goes into his leadership challenge here, it doesn't look good for Pierre Poilievre either. Three people out of his party. That seems to, you would have thought these defections would have come from the NDP before the Conservatives.
Well, I think it tells you everything you need to know that Davies is upset about this because that's the other
Takes away his
fear,
power.
isn't it?
Yeah.
The fear among people in the NDP, it was an intense fear a couple of months ago, was that they were going to lose almost all of their MPs, that they were almost all going to defect, like 4 or 5 of them. That's still possible, isn't it? But it's this kind of, Mark Carney, say what you want about him, he energizes, he really catalyzes the political class, doesn't he? And they're kind of in awe of him. MPs, all the sort of policy people in Ottawa, they're amazed by this guy. And I think he's magnetizing, isn't he? He's sucking these people in. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were going to be more. They seem to trust him. They're looking to him as like, daddy, as Mark Rutte looks at Donald Trump. The Canadian political class looks at Mark Carney as Big Daddy, don't they?
Yeah, Kevin Wong and Michelle Ferreri are putting out 3 days ago, Michael Mall met with the Chinese ambassador, and then 3 days later, he defects. I mean, they're putting that out there. And then Sam Cooper also put this out. He's a journalist here in Canada. Wake up, Canada. Majority of floor crossing in circumstances where the PRC is recognized to have favored Carney will be absolutely unacceptable. Look at that MP that crossed and his Markham riding. Look what happened to Joseph Tay. This can't stand. And I'm sure Sam Cooper is going to do a little digging on this and see what he finds. I'm sure there needs to be some, because this is odd. Like you said earlier, this is the same riding that had some issues before with Chinese interference.
Yeah, and it's not like they're going to try and downplay this Chinese thing, but come on, at this point, we're not playing silly, are we? There have been so many investigations, official investigations. Sam Cooper's done more work than anybody on this. Chinese interference is very, very real in Canadian politics, and generally it favors the Liberal Party. Why that is, anybody's guess, really. I mean, he has theories, doesn't he? But on the other hand, the Indian government is generally seen to favor the Conservative Party. This is happening. I think it would, if we want to have a serious democracy and a healthy, robust democracy, we should ask questions about things like this. But I can guarantee you it's going to be dismissed. It's going to be given a who cares? Or it's going to be, they might even be audacious enough to try and wrap it up in some kind of racism or something like that, some kind of like progressive language of how you shouldn't say things like that about groups of people, even though we're talking about the Chinese Communist Party.
And this is odd for the shoe to drop just as they're about to hit that 6-week holiday break, a well-deserved break. I mean, they've worked for what, just a few months now. I mean, it must be stressful to work that long. And this is just at the same time that Ottawa is doling out millions of dollars in bonuses, and 90 to 100% of the people working in Ottawa, they're getting big fat checks at Christmas, while Canadians stare at the beef counter like it's a luxury item. That has not been addressed as well. And these bonuses, we highlighted that, I think, a couple of shows ago. You can go back and watch those shows. Some of those bonuses are quite lucrative as well, including in the Canada Infrastructure Bank when they were talking about $85,000 in the past for, that was the average bonus. And yeah, and there's no like KPI you have to hit. No, like you don't have to do a good job or bad job, just like show up in a line and show up for your turkey, whereas meanwhile most Canadians showing up and getting a lump of coal. Well, you're not even allowed to have coal in Canada, so you don't even get a lump of coal, but
you'd be fined for that. It is as usual, really. It's a terrible look, isn't it? Especially when we're being told. I mean, Tim Hodgson in question period the other day came out and got a big cheer from the Liberals, came out and said, "Hello, we're in a trade war," or something like that, trying to humiliate Pierre Poilievre. Okay, so we're at war. You've been telling us we're at war for a long time. Why are you going on a 6-week vacation then? What kind of war is that? In what kind of war do you go on a 6-week vacation? I've never heard of that before.
Carney rejects suggestion that the U.S. wants to abandon CUSMA as well. Carney rejected the idea that Americans are planning to abandon the Canada-Mexico-U.S. agreement. That's not what they're saying through the U.S. officials, including the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. But Mexico's getting ready, though, because part of it is, we talked about this yesterday, where we're saying that India and China are using Mexico and Canada as ways to funnel product into the United States by beating their tariffs, by shipping to Canada, putting a made in or Chinese products come in there, putting a Made in Canada sticker on it and then sending it south. Same thing going on Mexico. But here's a piece on Mexico here, how they're getting ready for CUSMA and cleaning it up before they get there.
Has announced major new tariffs, up to 50%, on imports from several Asian countries, including India, China, South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia. These duties, which take effect on January 1, 2026, are aimed at protecting Mexico's domestic industries and reducing dependence on Asian imports, especially from China, with which it faces a large trade imbalance. China is expected to be hit the hardest, but India will also feel a significant impact. Nearly $1 billion worth of Indian exports, mainly cars and auto components from companies like Volkswagen, Hyundai, Nissan, and Maruti Suzuki, will now face a steep jump in import duties from 20% to 50%. Mexican leaders say the move will boost local industry and create jobs, though analysts suggest it may also be intended to align more closely with the US ahead of the USMCA trade agreement review.
That's good.
Was that AI? Sounded a bit weird, that, didn't it?
But here's Jolie and what she's planning to do. Oh, Jolie.
Can you tell us how much that is happening? I mean, is there a significant portion of trade with the U.S. that is now being replaced with overseas partners?
Well, we went through an election back in the spring, and our mandate given by Canadians was to first take charge of our economy, stop being over-dependent on the U.S., and second was really to be able to diversify our trade, and so being closer to Europe, closer to Asia. And so, in that sense, because Canada is the only country of the G7 that has free trade agreements with all other free trade G7 countries, well, our goal has been to indeed be closer to Europe and Asia. I will give you an example. In a sector that is affected by the tariffs, so aluminum, Canada is a big producer of aluminum. Q1 of this year, before the tariffs, 4% of one of our big aluminum plants, which is called Alouette, was going to Europe of its production. And Q2, it was actually 57% of its production that was going to Europe. So we know that there's been a pivoting. And meanwhile, also, we're investing more to build one strong domestic market here in Canada. So we've invested in major projects, maybe critical minerals, investing in LNG projects, investing also in different important ports. And so we know that we can take charge more of our economy.
That's good. I'm going to just show you how math works on what she's touting there about Europe, because she didn't tell you the number. Because like if you're selling, like 3/4 of your aluminum to the United States and 25% to the Europe, and if you remove the none goes to the United States, what happens to the other number without changing the volume that goes to Europe? It just goes up dramatically, doesn't it? So I mean, she's playing with stats there. It's just a game. Like, I mean, what investments are we talking about? What has moved ahead? All those ones they highlighted, they didn't move ahead. I don't like. What is she talking about?
It's all just spin.
Yeah.
And she's not going to be held to account by CNN, really, is she? They don't have the first clue what she's talking about. But the saddest thing of all is she won't be held to account by CTV either, or CBC.
And
they just let her get away with this kind of thing.
And this is the wagon we want to hitch our star to. This is what's going on with Europe, and here's a little explanation of Europe here, the political interview here.
The major area, look, an economically weak Europe is not in Europe's interest, and it's not in the best interest of the United States. It's not in the best interest of Europe.
Do you think Europe is weak at this moment, sir?
Economically? Yeah, I think Europe's got real problems economically. If you look back 14 years ago, just 14 years, nominal GDP in Europe was ahead of the United States. Now, this year, the IMF says it'll be about 20% below. And if you include the UK, if you exclude the UK, you're looking at 30% below. And the industrial giant of Europe, Germany, has GDP per capita last year that was below that of the state of West Virginia. West Virginia is the 49th lowest state on GDP per capita. If you look at France, Spain, Italy, I'll throw the United Kingdom in just for balance, and the EU generally, GDP per capita is lower than the state of Mississippi, which is the 50th lowest U.S. state. That just shouldn't be. That's just, Germany's much stronger than that. Germany should be a powerhouse, but they're losing business to China. They now import more.
That's good. You and I talk about it all the time. Europe is no star you want to hitch a wagon to. Like, they're basically, they have kneecapped themselves, willingly kneecapped themselves with all this green agenda.
Another country that you could have listed there, talking about GDP per capita, is Canada, though. That's another one that's sunk in relation to the United States. I mean, Japan as well, they lag quite a bit in GDP per capita. All he says is true there, but it's kind of, I don't know, there's another way to look at it. He can talk about Europe failing, which I think is pretty much true. Yeah, I agree with that. But another way to look at it is America's just surged ahead.
Mm-hmm.
America's just kind of
juggernaut.
They've just achieved liftoff, haven't they? It seemed to happen, or it seems to be, in part at least, related to them becoming the world's largest producer of oil and gas. That certainly helped. One of the big drags on American growth was that they got so much of their energy from overseas, and that put them in a bad spot.
Energy is everything, and also there's talk about the EU having some issues even holding it together, and there's some report out of that claims the White House wants 4 countries to kind of move. And then, I mean, they've made some noise. Hungary, I never heard of Austria yet, but Poland, Italy, they've made some noise. I was going to play this interview, but it just basically says that we're in the interest of time today. We're going to kind of move ahead, but there is some stuff going on there where there is, like, definitely Viktor Orban in Hungary has made, like, he's getting fined €1 million a day for not taking migrants. I mean, there's lots of pressure in the EU for sure, and the UK left with Brexit. And then and
there's always chat about France potentially leaving. I mean, the Le Pen family.
If France leaves, that's the end of the EU.
It's now called National Rally, their party.
You know what I mean? If France leaves, that's the end of the EU for sure. Like, because it really
is. Well, it is in many ways. It's a union between France and Germany. So yeah, that's true.
If with the UK was a massive blow, but you take France out of that, then really what's left, right? And here's what the French lady has to say, and she said that she's embarrassed, that she's humiliated by Donald Trump, not for the reason you think, though. Let's play this.
Sur Donald Trump, je vous avoue que moi, quand je lis ce genre de déclaration d'un étranger, je trouve ça
Actually, we'll cut that. She's basically saying she feels humiliated by what Trump says only because she agrees with him. She finds it humiliating to hear it from the outside that Paris is falling into disrepair.
Yeah, although I would still much rather go to Paris than quite a lot of American cities in terms of safety and beauty and whatnot. It's a bit odd when the Americans are doing it. They are kind of throwing stones while residing in glass houses.
This one here is concerning because we're trying to get a pipeline to get our product to reduce our reliance. You hear Jolie, reduce our reliance on the Americans. At the same time, there is enough roadblocks in the way to say this is never going to happen. And here, Acting Chief Terry Villenburn says no to the federal Alberta MOU, no to the tanker ban being lifted, and no to Pathways carbon capture. We can play this little clip here.
To say to the Prime Minister Carney that we say no. No to increasing production of tar sands by 100 million barrels a day. No to increasing toxic tailings in our backyard. No to lifting the tanker ban on the West Coast. And no to Pathways carbon capture. And no to the MOU within Alberta. We stand in solidarity with the Coastal First Nations, and Prime Minister Carney would have known this if he had bothered consulting us. Our treaty is not a bargaining chip for you to sell out Canada. All of Alberta is treaty land, and you can't have an agreement with Alberta that excludes us. We who are standing here today have stopped Alberta from separating. and we will stop this MOU from being enacted. Masicho.
Just amazingly grandiose. Like such an enormously high opinion of themselves. This group, like God, like come on. If this country really decides it wants to do something like this, doesn't matter what the treaty says, doesn't matter what anything says, it will happen. That's kind of how it works. Also, increase production of the tar sands by 100 million barrels a day. This is somebody that has absolutely no idea about oil or anything. She has absolutely no clue what she's talking about. 100 million barrels. That's about how much the entire world produces. There's not going to be 100 million barrels out of the tar sands. What are you talking about? You know, at least look on Wikipedia or something before you come and give this speech.
Here's our friend Sebastian. Remember Sebastian? He used to work for Pierre Poilievre. But this is a little clip here where somebody was trying to scrum with your friend Mark Miller there, who is still yet to respond to you because he's obviously busy getting ready for his vacation. You sent that out the day he got appointed as the Heritage Minister, yet to get a reply. Maybe his email's broken, or maybe he's illiterate. But let's look at how they don't even let him answer questions, so they trust him that much.
You can come talk to us instead, though. You come over.
Mark, they're not trying to help you out.
You come here instead.
They're not helping you.
You see Dominic LeBlanc, they're not helping you. They're not helping you. Like, what is this, right? What is going on in Canadian politics?
It's just an exceedingly creepy environment, isn't it? It's so much of it is very strange. Although, Sebastian, I'm sorry to say, I hope you're watching, Sebastian, but you can shut your mouth, obviously. You could shut up right now, you silly little boy. How many times did I try and get an interview with Pierre Poilievre through you as the gatekeeper? And you said no. So behave yourself.
Or didn't answer.
Scamsky.
Or didn't answer, right? Even better.
Exactly. But this is the typical thing. The Conservatives, they present themselves as superior. Anybody that knows anything about the Conservative Party knows that they're just as bad, really, with a few exceptions, like our dearly beloved Dan Albas.
You know, the sad thing is when they needed us, they called us. I would get phone calls from Sebastian and setting up interviews and that. And then all of a sudden when we weren't needed, then we couldn't even get an email responded to.
Totally. I mean, it's just no credibility whatsoever. And Sebastian, he's a nice lad. Seems
Very
quite
nice.
intelligent.
Really nice guy.
But,
sure.
you know, he's just been he's been hopelessly hypocritical here. Let's engage with reality.
But on the other side of that, though, what happened there is not a way to have a fruitful democracy. That is ridiculous. Like, I mean, our media has been crippled, corrupted, blocked. Access has been blocked how many times? You can't get anything, right? And here's another
It's
example.
terrible. Not to mention the C18, obviously, which is just like a crowbar to the skull of independent media in this country. It just basically prevents any kind of insurgent media rising up.
Yeah, so basically they have your foot on your throat, our throat. They have their foot on our throat, telling us at the same time, well, we can't breathe, to say, oh, we're here to help. And we're just like, if you just take your foot off our throat, that would be the best help you could offer us. But here you go, the Arrive scam still going on 5 years later. And this is in committee hearing. This is with McKinsey & Co. You know, how many millions of dollars McKinsey has scalped from Canadian taxpayers? Like a couple $100 million a year. McKinsey & Co. Now they've got their people running the Canada Infrastructure Bank. Their tentacles are wrapped. This American company, this American marketing firm has its tentacles wrapped around Canada. And let's listen in on this. There's no clip. No, there was a link. I don't know where it went, but
we need to get a McKinsey subscription if we want this.
Basically, they're just stonewalling and saying, how did this happen? $59 million. Who picked these two guys? These two guys in a basement. $60 million contract. You found the clip. There you go. Look at that. Even without the $1.55 billion, we can find the clip. Thanks, CBC.
Ms. O'Gorman, in the Arrive scam scandal, we saw subcontractors hired without proper vetting, and in the McKinsey audit, we saw CBSA structure procurements that effectively shut out other bidders. Different projects, same story. The Liberal government failed to enforce the most basic controls in federal contracting. How did CBSA allow this pattern to repeat?
So the McKinsey contracts were competitive or were taken off public PSPC standing offer. And in some cases, we received multiple bids. And so I would make the distinction with the processes here. Certainly, the Auditor General found a lack of documentation. And as was said earlier, a lack of documentation is presumed guilt, and it's hard to argue with that. But the processes were different from what you're referring to in terms of IT contractors versus the processes that were used to contract with McKinsey.
Where is Cameron McDonald now?
I don't know.
Where is Min Do now?
I don't know.
Who chose GC Strategies?
Could you elaborate?
I'd like you to elaborate, please. We haven't received a clear response from your organization as to who chose GC Strategies. Who chose GC Strategies, Ms. O'Gorman?
So GC Strategies, there was a contract for GC Strategies that was requested by CBSA of PSPC. In terms of the business case, there's documentation supporting that. I don't have a document in saying we want GC Strategies, but there was a sole source justification.
It's just this slop of money out in front of you, and they just slop at the trough because they didn't even bother doing the proper paperwork, like sole source contracts. I mean, the Auditor General has pointed out tons of times that they didn't even follow their own protocols. And that these two guys operating out of a basement got all this money and then millions of dollars. And then there's a settlement that's being, and I can't remember the exact number, like $194,000 they're going to give back, basically like a cost of doing business. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is 5 years later, we're still trying to uncover this because they've been blocked how many times in trying to get at this information. That is what the Liberals are good at, blocking. And if they get their majority, you won't see anything come to light, right?
Where's the humility and where's the contrition? That's what I always, I'm always appalled by that whenever I watch these committees. There is no sense of shame. There's no sense of, saying sorry to the Canadian people for being a failure and costing a lot of money. Or, not, as you were mentioning, not even doing the basics that you're supposed to do anyway. Like the rules, the system tells you to do. We need that. We need contrition. We need apologies. We need to hear them more often, I think.
Do you remember when Justin Trudeau's initial campaign video, we played it a while back, when Stephen Harper, he says that, he was sick and tired of the lack of transparency and that the Liberals will run on transparency and accountability. We saw none of that. And right now, here it is, another one here from the Canada's Parliamentary Budget Office. They're the pain in the ass for the Liberals. Is blocking timely immigration data and delaying his investigation into the $800 million interim federal health program. Conservatives on the Health Committee forced this investigation after IFHP's costs skyrocketed more than 1,200% under the Liberals. We've uncovered the rejected refugee claimants were still receiving taxpayer-funded supplemental health benefits like physiotherapy, speech therapy, and home care. Why is the government hiding the real cost of immigration? And there's the letter right there from Jason Jacks saying, give us the information in a timely fashion.
It's got to the point now, hasn't it, where I don't think these elected officials, the Liberal Party in specific, I don't think that they can be trusted with this information. I think it needs to be taken away from them. And something like the PBO, like a neutral body, needs to be in control of this information because they've shown that they can't be trusted. They're just way too opaque. And it's like Banana Republic standards sometimes, isn't it? I mean, what the hell is this?
Do you know what would happen in a public company if you refuse to give this information out? To what would happen to the CEOs and the executive team if you refuse to do? You have Enron type stuff where they start shredding documents and they all flee and then they get charged. But in here, they just stonewall and stonewall and stonewall, trickery and stonewall and trickery, and hope the next scandal is big enough that you ignore the one that was going on. And let's go to the CBC.
They just can't have it. They can't have a monopoly on this information. It's no longer. I don't think it's. compatible with a democracy anymore to have that situation prevail.
Let's go to the CBC and see if they're covering any of this and any of the other scandals, fraud, waste, corruption that we're going to cover today. What do we got? Scottish men accused, House Democrats.
Bloody Scotsman.
Hey, Trump, Canadian boycott, another U.S. story. Conservatives
Venezuela vexes Trump.
Look, conservatives frustrated with Polyev. Venezuela vexes Trump. I see nothing about blocking Jason Jack's access to information. Nothing. Nothing about the Arrive scam. Nothing.
Who is Mark Sutcliffe? That's the mayor of Ottawa. What have they done? Okay.
$1.55 billion, Canadians. $1.55 billion you spend on the watchdog, the state-funded watchdog, who does a lot of... If it's a watchdog, it's not even like a Chihuahua status. It's basically like a fat old blind dog that only barks when it's told by its master. Yeah. Here's another Canada Post seeking a second emergency loan. Why not? Eh? Why not? It will require years to pay it back. Good luck with that. Pay it back. More than $1 billion already borrowed. CEO Doug Ettner yesterday said to MPs an initial $1 billion line of credit was approved on last January 24th has run out. Who cares, right? Who cares? Who cares? It's just money, right? Look at all the waste. $473 million just to, that's almost right there. That's half of that. $473 million just to manage the dental program. That's not the cost of the benefits. Who cares? Lightning rod. Who cares? Who cares? And here's another one from Holly Dona Blacklocks. Government admits a $6.6 million mistake. To that, it's small change, isn't it? Department of Health paid out more than $6.6 million in ineligible claims under its Canada Dental Plan. Record show. $473 million to administer this program, and they're still making mistakes? I'll do it for half, and I won't make any mistakes. I'll cover the mistakes. It follows disclosure that the overall cost of the program projected to go 50% over budget this year. Why not, right? Department of Inquiry Ministry table in the Commons acknowledged it paid claims to individuals who were incorrectly informed of their eligibility. It includes 68,000 claims valued at over $6.6 million. No money ever recovered. Doesn't matter, does it?
And these are the same set of people we're supposed to trust to build an $80 billion high-speed rail network. I'm sure there'll be no wasted money involved in that.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about next. So they say this Alto CEO said it would be absurd to have a cost for the Montreal high-speed rail portion, saying it'll be a test case for building the rest of the line. I got news for you. Just go to like China or Japan and see how they've done it. Like Canada, I remember when Trudeau built this, I think it was Trudeau and Freeland. It wasn't Trudeau and Freeland. Trudeau highlighted this project as he was leaving out the door there. It was like $4 billion just to plan. And I asked ChatGPT, maybe a couple $100,000 for the planning. $4 billion. And who was one of the main contractors that they had named in this thing for the planning? Air Canada. Air Canada. Get that. How many trains, high-speed trains, has Air Canada built? 0.
But yeah, you said Japan. The Japanese, it's much harder terrain, obviously, as well, isn't it? In Japan, as you know from personal experience now, it's a very mountainous country. Yeah. So they did it quite miraculous, really, that they built that system. The Japanese, one of the many sort of amazing things that they've achieved in that country. But yeah, why don't they're our friends, aren't we? Aren't they? Why don't we go knock on the door and say, Japan, please help? Even the French have done some interesting work with rail. Like the British are attempting feebly. Like we could go and ask some of the people rather than just, cock it up by ourselves.
I was just in Tokyo, 10 days in Osaka and Tokyo actually, and no homelessness, no drug addiction, spotless, clean. I would sleep on the subway, and I was riding down the elevator yesterday as I was going home. Floyer, a friend of mine, asked him because he said he was in Japan, and I didn't, front load it. I just asked him what he thought of it, and he said the exact same things: safety, no homelessness, no drug addiction. So as I was driving home, in my car. I have Grok in there. I asked it, what the heck is going on? How can they do this when we can't seem to make it happen? You got to do it yourself. The answer is quite remarkable at that they just have way better supports, and they just don't tolerate any campments on the street. They make sure people find help. And the drug addiction too, they have put supports in there and make sure everybody's employed. And so it's amazing what's going on there in the largest city in the world. And in some places in Canada, or some of the cities look like war zones.
They also have something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, a lot of progressive types don't like to talk about, is they also have very, very severe punishment for possession even, I think, but certainly for
zero
dealing,
tolerance.
like
Zero tolerance.
Really, really serious punishment. Yeah.
But they say that this they could break ground in 2029. They got to spend that $4 billion in planning before they stick a shovel in the ground. That's what I mean. Like, when will this stuff ever get built? It'd just be a money pit, another money pit. But
and it's also another money pit for the benefit of Quebec, really, isn't it? It's another thing to say to Quebec nationalists or separatists, to say to them, like, look, these are some of the many benefits you get by remaining in Canada. Here's a high-speed rail link. Because if you see there, one of the justifications that they give for selecting this route, this first route, is that it's the flattest section. So it's easier to build. Me and you, we've talked a couple of times, haven't we, about flat parts of Canada that might benefit from a high-speed rail link, like Edmonton, Calgary. That would be like, you could build that drunk, probably. I mean, that's just like a geographical gift. But obviously that's not going to happen, is it?
Well, we were just at CBC, and so we're going to do this next highlight of fraud, waste, theft, corruption, whatever, incompetence, whatever you want to call it. This seems to be, not only is the art and jewelry missing, it's the stories missing on the CBC website. But artworks that vanished from a multi-million-dollar federal collection included jewelry, records show the Department of Crown and Indigenous Relations said jewelry disappeared from the unnamed regional office 30 years ago, but has only been made public now. The Department and Inquiry Ministry tabled in the comments would not disclose the value of the items unaccounted for. Why would they? The inquiry would not describe the jewelry or the name of the artist that created. They're among 5,000 that works purchased by the department for $14 million. Who cares, right? Didn't even contact police. What for? Nobody's going to do anything, right?
Reading Blacklocks is it just makes you want to give up sometimes, doesn't it? It's so you just have to despair the incompetence of these people.
Was this story on the CBC, the Canada's state-funded watchdog? Nope. But this one here,
everything's great. Everything's going well if you read the CBC, actually.
Except for in the United States, where Trump is, ending the world. This one is even better. This is from Holly Doan Blacklocks as well. Cabinet approved a 5-figure pay raise for an appointee under investigation for workplace misconduct. Records show Marie Chapman of Bedford, CEO of the Museum of Immigration, yesterday was accused of office bullying, like referring to employees as, why not, sluts, I guess, right? What's wrong with that, right? Entirely unacceptable. That's what Mark Miller said, if any of these allegations are true. But hey, here's your raise. Here's your bonus. Here's your raise. Here's cash money, right?
It's such a hard story to believe, because she has such a trustworthy face, doesn't she, this woman?
Yeah, so she in 2021 was reappointed as CEO at a $221,000 a year salary, but on March 7th, they gave her a raise to $272,000, even though she was under investigation at the time. No reason given for the pay raise. Well, we talked about that on the bonuses, like that one employee that didn't even show up for work, that was making $177,000, wouldn't show up for work. And they didn't give her bonus, and she argued, and they said, okay, there you go.
It's just so outrageous, isn't it? On the 7th of March, like very much not good times. Lots of worries in Canada, weren't there? Mostly financial worries. And then to just give this pointless person a $50,000 raise.
But look at the percentage raise. Look at the percentage, 221 to 272. Do you get that? Nobody gets that.
Yeah, it's more than a 20% raise, isn't it? 25-ish%.
Pretty good deal. And this is, most Canadian wealth is tied up in real estate. And real estate, the bubble that the Liberals helped create with these immigration policies, is popping. Let's listen in on this clip.
He's Kamal Karamali, who's standing by with more on the story and a deeper dive on some of the big cities in the country and what we're seeing, Kamal.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Todd, bad news for landlords and owners because the power seems to be increasingly going into the renters' hands. With more supply, they hold more of the leverage in terms of where they want to rent, what part of the city, the size of the unit, as well as what they pay for it as well. So it looks like we're seeing a shift in that balance taking place. You hit the nail on the head there with saying that there's been an increase in supply the last couple of years with more construction happening across the country, but also demand is decreasing with changing immigration policies, more stringent immigration policies, which means fewer international students as well. But we're also seeing, and we reported on this, higher youth unemployment, and that means fewer youth moving out from their parents' homes maybe and looking for.
That's good. And I said this a while ago, this is the greatest bear trap of all for real estate. I remember Tiff Macklin said during COVID there that Canadians go out and get that mortgage, don't worry about it, we're not going to raise interest rates, it's fine. And then they raised them in unprecedented fashion, 19-fold, and now a lot of these mortgages are renewing and people are seeing devastating results for that. But also, and who's in there to pick up the pieces like they've seen in the financial crisis? Who are the big buyers of real estate in Canada and in the United States when markets start popping? Who swoops in and buys stuff at discounts? That's right. Big corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, Brookfield. Remember that letter that Mark Carney penned himself? He said, now is the time to take advantage of renters because we can nail them with a bunch of perks and add-ons. Brookfield and Mark Carney not shy to make sure that he sticks his hands in your pocket when he was chairing Brookfield. He was actually just talking to the shareholders and saying how you can get more. And this is what's going to happen here. We're probably going to see a lot of the people go in default. And who's going to pick up this stuff at pennies on the dollar? Imagine that. Welcome to Pottersville. It's time to watch that movie anyway. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's definitely time.
Where is Jim Bailey when you need him? But here you go. The federal court has ruled Canada is legally obligated to provide adequate housing on First Nations reserves and class action suit that saw more than 100 First Nations, including some in Manitoba, sue the government. And then we won't play this clip either, but basically saying that the Liberals created this mess and this housing shortage, so you got to fix it.
Aren't these independent nations, though? That would be my immediate response. I haven't read this story, but we often hear that these are independent sovereign nations who reserve the right to say no to absolutely everything that Canada might want to do. But I guess Canada still has to build houses there.
Yeah, it depends on which side of the bed you wake up in the morning. But we saw that in Nova Scotia yesterday, where they banned the premier and his lieutenant there from actually coming on their land, and because that was over a cannabis thing. So things are getting interesting.
The system is such a mess, isn't it? It's such an extraordinary mess. These like competing sovereignties and all that. Just another example of an issue that's been like kicked down the road again and like year after year, decade after decade, and there's nobody brave enough to actually take it on and fix it. So this sort of festering wound just continues to get worse and worse, doesn't it? And it just makes no sense. Just look at it from a purely sort of rational perspective. This just doesn't make any sense at all.
If you like what Iain and I do, we are the best undiscovered independent news outlet in Canada, news commentary show. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe, share, help us get the word out. And then, if you go to the CBC, all you're going to get fed as a narrative. They're not going to cover any of these stories. You're going to be way more informed by watching us. We're on every weekday morning at 9 a.m. and we cut them up into various clips. You can watch them after. You can share them with friends. We would appreciate that. Help independent media in Canada get a bigger reach. Again, Bill C-18 crushing local independent media by not allowing us to post on Facebook and Instagram, where we earned our audience of over 200,000. And they took it away from us, telling us they were helping us. But we would appreciate your help. So, rise of Alberta. So the Alberta independence took its biggest step yet. Bill 14 has passed and received royal assent. The app is officially filed to launch a citizen-led independence referendum. I mean, this thing is, going to move forward, but we're not going to play this clip in the interest of time as well. But who knows where it ends up. But here's Newsmax out of the United States adding fuel to the fire. Let's listen in a little bit on this Newsmax clip here.
Why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
And they lost their mind, okay? Could parts of Canada, though, become the 51st state of the Union? I mean, is he that far off? Let's think about this. The people of the Canadian province of Alberta appear to be super fed up with the new Canadian government, and they're pushing for independence in one area, especially this guy, Mark Carney, was voted in as their new PM, and he is awful. Okay, keep in mind, Alberta is considered like the Texas of Canada. They are way more conservative, way more limited government, and produce the overwhelming amount of the country's commodities, like timber and oil and a bunch of other stuff. So the federal government of Canada is just like basically pooping their pants because they realize that they can't fund any of their big government programs without the revenue from the resources of that area. Cameron Davies, the leader of the Republican Party of...
That's good. That's good. We won't play the whole clip there, but there you go.
But I don't know how accurate that was necessarily from our American friends, but something that I find with this independence thing, and it's very strongly linked, isn't it, to the United States? I think the only way that is really plausible is if it's framed as leaving Canada to join the United States. I don't think it would be a particularly good idea for Alberta to be just like the Republic of Alberta, like a landlocked,
I don't think it would
separate country, because no, and it would be reliant on the US, reliant on Canada, bullied by both of those countries, like a little landlocked country surrounded by. It just wouldn't work.
I think.
But if they do frame it as let's join the United States, yeah, like that could work theoretically, actually, and that talking about things scaring Ottawa, that would scare Ottawa for sure.
Mark Carney has done a great job in kind of like looking to build his majority through negotiating or however he's getting these conservatives across. But he has three exposed flanks, and one of them is his Stephen Guilbeault with the now likely maybe going to help fuel Quebec's separatist movement because of climate. And then also Alberta, the separatist movement, and also First Nations now claiming to be sovereign nations and even not allowing people on their lands. Like, I mean, there's three fronts there that are really challenging Canada's existence. And then David Eby himself and what he's done. And we're going to get to that in British Columbia here real quick. And I was going to play this clip again in the interest of time. Elon Musk with Joe Rogan saying that it's weird how the media says the same thing all the time. We played this lots of times too. The media seems to, the mainstream media or the government-funded media or government-corrupted media tends to get a message and then to just kind of like just push it out there, especially in the United States. And in Canada, it's more so because they use like the CPY or stuff like that, or Reuters, and they just use those, and they just don't have enough people. They laid everybody off. In a little bit in the finance news, Lululemon gets a little bounce here after, like, if you look at the stock chart of Lululemon here, where stocks, and we've covered them off. We covered Canada's retail stocks here, or clothing stocks. Aritzia, like on fire. Like when we started talking about Aritzia at $20, it's over 100. We started talking about GR Garage brand when it went public, IPO'd at 20. Then fell down to 10 and then is now like banging on the door of 100. But Lululemon, which was the Canadian darling, falling apart there. And then this is Chip Wilson finally saying that the reason that the stock is popping here is Chip Wilson. Remember, he was disgraced when he said and made to resign as CEO because women were complaining about the leggings pilling. And he said that they're not meant for overweight people. And that was the end of Chip as CEO at Lululemon, but he still is the largest shareholder of that. And he said, I communicated with members of the company publicly and privately. Lululemon needs to revitalize it and infusion of new skills to get back to being a product-first company. and create long-term value. As after overseeing years of poor decisions erode the brand and destroy shareholder value, they did a lot of really strange things. I'm a big fan of Lululemon, and I'm an investor in Lululemon. But they did a lot of really weird things. You see that the stock, I mean, how did Aritzia and Garage Brand just take off? Well, this Canadian darling just fell apart here, right? And again, they did a lot of the woke stuff too, and drove their brand into the proverbial ditch. You can see the ditch they're forming. You see the ditch? You see two ditches.
I mean, you can provide more and answer my question, but is that not kind of how it works in fashion? Like they go up, they get popular, they're trendy, then they sort of tank. Like it's a very sort of it's often temporary, isn't it? Except for the few companies that somehow last forever, like Calvin Klein or whatever.
Yeah, well, they're losing market share in the United States. They are gaining internationally. Like I was in Tokyo, like I said, they're lined up to get into Lululemon. So there's a lot to this brand. I mean, I believe that the lifestyle brand, I mean, that's what I basically wear. I got a nice suit on top, but I wear a more relaxed lifestyle Lululemon style on the bottom. But, and it is, once people figure it out, it'll be amazing. But in the interest of time, we're going to push ahead here, and we're going to get a little bit on BC News here.
Live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Our friend John Rustad, the now former leader of the BC Conservatives, says, still working at the Conservatives there, says David Eby keeps saying you help homeowners after the Cowichan decision. Helped them with what? And he goes on to say that Cowichan decision there has put a lot of uncertainty in British Columbia. And then that recent decision on the gold mine, and then the Haida file, all kinds of things has really put BC investment and basically on pause. And we're seeing that from a lot of people. And I talked to a lot of people too, and they're saying, not right now, not until we get some. Yeah, I got Lulu, man. Lulu is the way to go. That's for me anyway. First, and this is from the National Post, the mother of all unintended consequences hitting BC right now. David Eby has made a mess. And I'd say the writing is on the wall, just like it was you and I talked for Rustad. We said the writing's on the wall for Rustad. It's just a matter of time. Rustad's in denial when he wouldn't step down. Remember the hell no, I won't go, even though. And I'd say the same thing goes for David Eby. I think they need to change leadership if they want the NDP to even have a shot. He's made a mess. And then I've interviewed Jeff Moyse, I think 4 times now, Aboriginal lawyer, 33 years of experience in that, and negotiating lots of treaties. And he says that David Eby is running the reconciliation agenda out of his own office, and a lot of his MLAs don't even know what's going on. And he's running it with a few advisors that want to see a lot of pain for British Columbians. So not a great look, and that they're asking for legislature to be recalled so that they can repeal DRIPA, which they didn't have to put in. That was a UN thing. It has nothing to do with our Constitution, and this is where we find ourselves right now. And then there's also talk that Aaron Gunn would leave the CPC to take a run at the leadership of the Conservative Party. That would just mathematically give the Liberals a majority, I think, right now, wouldn't it? If Aaron Gunn leaves.
Well, it would prompt a by-election, I guess. So if they lost that by-election.
But I mean, if the by-election, the Liberals can delay that for who knows how long, right? Do you know what I mean? Because they're the ones in charge of calling the by-election, and they could delay that forever, make up excuses while they ram through whatever they wanted.
That's another mad fact about the Canadian system, that the Prime Minister gets to decide when a by-election is held. I mean, but he did Mark Carney did behave quite decently, didn't he, with Poilievre, so maybe he would do it again.
There's no guarantee. And then I interviewed Gavin Dew a few days ago here, and this is on the NDP too, on short-term rental exemptions. Kelowna meets all the guidelines now, but it's just a paperwork thing, and the NDP said nope, because they got to file the documents by March, and they already meet all the things, and then it's too late for the next year, so I don't know.
We see so much of this, don't we? This kind of deceptive behavior, this kind of
just
paper pushing, obstructionism.
And another mess for the BC NDP is healthcare in BC. Another BC Interior ER forced to close, and this one in 100 Mile House. Not like they didn't have enough bad news in 100 Mile House with the closure of that mill, basically devastating that town. Today, I have the mayor at, I think it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Is my mic giving us grief here? Oh. We have the mayor of Crofton, where Domtar is closing that pulp mill. I think, believe that 2 o'clock, or is it 3 o'clock? 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. We have 2:30, 3:30. Oh, we're picking a time here. That's what that $1.55 billion budget that we lack. Well, doesn't even allow us to get a good watch, right? So at 3:30, we have the mayor of Crofton. If you want to tune in live, he's going to tell us what that does to a community like that, and 100 Mile House suffering that as well.
He's the mayor of the North Cowichan.
Yeah.
Like, it's a few towns, isn't it? But yeah, Crofton. He is responsible for Crofton. Yeah.
We're going to do some international news here real quick.
Live from the Now Media Newsroom.
DJT saying, be careful what you're doing. He said, don't be a fool, basically, because of, like they said, they almost had a deal, and then they see they might be pushing for a third world war. He said, if everybody that keeps playing games like this, you'll end up with a third world war. And we see a lot of rhetoric. We talked about it yesterday. Rhetoric from France, rhetoric from Mark Rutte even, talking about how they're ready to go to war. I don't know. Crazy talk. But the Venezuelan thing is heating up as well. And this is, we'll play this clip first, and then we'll talk about it. We'll just go on to this clip here for Maduro. I think he's related to Olivia Chow, is he not? Let's watch him here. I think he got his dance.
Diana Carney.
Tres, dos, uno. The socialist dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is counting his days and singing for mercy.
La 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 la. Don't worry, be happy. La 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 la. Just peace, not war.
Mad Dog Maduro is trying to get off Trump's naughty list.
That's
because
we won't play the whole Jesse Waters thing. We saw the clip yesterday. That's not the slide that you should have up there.
It's a bit cringe, that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just peace, not war.
And why is he singing in English? Who's he singing that to, right? Like, what is going on, right? Like,
yeah.
They seized that, we played the clip yesterday of the Marines dropping down from the helicopter, seizing that vessel. And they say they're going to seize some more as well. And these are sanctioned already. And there's a lot of pressure as the naval blockade, basically they have a naval blockade right now in Venezuela. And we talked about that the other day. Naval blockades basically choke off a lot of stuff going on. And they moved an aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford there. And with the aircraft carrier comes many, many supporting destroyers and other vessels that go with it. I mean, that is what the strength of the Americans is, their military.
And particularly their navy. Yeah, like they are ultimately a naval power.
That is what, I mean, we saw, and we talked about it yesterday too, like, even the building of the Americas was a lot had to do with their navy, right? Even as they defeated Mexico and all that going on. And Donald Trump's, we talked about it earlier, the economy in the United States seems to be firing on all cylinders. Let's listen to this guy on CNN as the Democratic CNN group there with their jaws hanging open. Let's play this clip.
What the press secretary said is absolutely true. Almost every single indicator on the economy is really strong. I mean, we've had 4% economic growth. The average family after inflation, after taxes, is $1,200 richer than they were at the start of the year. We used to measure inflation. The one barometer we always used was the gas price. That's down by about 30%, the lowest in 5 years. We have all this capital coming to the United States. The economy, in my opinion, as an economist, is really set up for a booming year in 2026. And yet, the public doesn't. They're not seeing the love, and I don't know why. I can't explain.
It's because CNN is speaking to its audience and telling you how bad it is when they just continue to tell you that Joe Biden was all there.
That gave me flashbacks to Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau trying to tell Canadians that actually you're doing fine, you're really rich. Look at all these statistics. And so did Biden. Biden did that. You never ever want to be in that position as the government, trying to tell the people that actually you're really rich. Everything's great. Like you've never.
I got a clip for you later.
You don't want to do that.
We'll let the people talk after here, just in the interest of time. Here's your friend. Oh, I thought I had the clip. I don't know if you can find it, but I don't have the clip. And it's Keir Starmer on buying nuclear subs from AUKUS, so the US, UK, and Australia. Where's Canada in that? You wouldn't want to have that because then it would be caucus, wouldn't it? But Canada buying the scraps or buying diesel subs or planning to buy. They'll hand wring about buying diesel subs. But at least the UK is going to buy nuclear subs as the US, UK, and Australia are entered the delivery phase of the sub program with £6 billion invested in to upgrade Barrow and Derby facilities. The new AUKUS class attack subs will roll out every 18 months. That's pretty quick, eh? Nuclear sub, creating 7,000 UK jobs and sustaining 21,000 more while fast-tracking advanced military tech. Why don't we buy a nuclear sub? Like, we have one of the most undefended, like, we have a way more bigger coastline than any of these guys. Well, I guess you could argue Australia is more exposed to China than, but I mean, we're exposed to the Russians. Like, it's right across the top there. And the Russians have nuclear subs up there, bases up there and everything. And what do we got up there? The Americans that we like to stick a stick in their eye with.
Well, he's got a few like Inuit knocking around with some Second World War era rifles or something like that. That's basically that militia is basically like the first line of defense. But I think the answer is, you mentioned Australia and you say, yeah, they do need it because they're vulnerable to China and all the rest of it. Just if you look at Canada, the reason Canada doesn't have this kind of thing is because we're on top of the United States, and the Americans will. Who cares? The Americans will look after that. That's basically the attitude. Whereas the Americans can't realistically get across the Pacific and go all the way down to patrol Australian waters all the time, but they will do that with Canada.
Yeah, but once Diana makes a point there, why are we buying diesel subs when we got to get rid of fossil fuels? Maybe they're going to turn them into electric subs. I watched
biofuel, maybe ethanol or something.
I watched a nuclear sub surf in the Arctic, and it just punches through, just like breaks through the ice. I don't think a diesel sub would do that. Just like we bought those diesel subs in a used sub garage sale from the UK, and they lit on fire as we were sailing them home, and we asked for our money back, and the Brits said, "Good one." And then a bumper warranty. As soon as we couldn't see the bumper anymore, that was all you. Clowns. They're going to play that J.D. Vance thing. Al Green tried to impeach Trump again. Failed miserably with a vote there of 237 to 14. Come on, Al. And Elon Musk is pushing Grok, and it'll be used nationwide by El Salvador for personalized education. There you go. Grok in El Salvador. El Salvador making big moves, lately, with the Bitcoin, this kind of stuff. Like they got a new leader there, and they're about crime, and they were making money off crime because they're taking prisoners, and they're saying, "Hey, you pay us, we'll put people in prison for you." And here's somebody in Colorado. Again, a little clip here. About gas prices. You wanted to talk to the people. Here's the people.
$1.93 at the Exxon off of Garden of the Gods Road. Gas prices in Colorado are extremely low. Colorado ranking 4th lowest nationally, according to AAA.
I came here out of my way to get gas because it's a lot cheaper here.
In El Paso County, the average gas price per gallon is $2.34, $2.41 a gallon in Pueblo County.
I mean, this is insane, right?
$1.93.
$1.93.
$1.93.
Gas is $1.93, which is awesome. I can't believe it. I haven't seen these prices since.
That's good. I mean, there's some places in the United States, $1.66. And the highest places, can you guess which the highest state is for gasoline prices? Take a stab
California.
at it. California, well, it's actually Hawaii, but you can't really count them because they got to ship it a ways. But California, why not?
Yeah, I once had to get gas at Death Valley, which is the most expensive gas in America. Usually, is the Death Valley one.
Your
And
choice
it was
is
over $5.
Your choice is gas or death, because if you can't make it through Death Valley.
Exactly. They've really got a captive market there.
This one I want to show you because this is pretty cool. I've experienced the Boring Company's work in Las Vegas. I was going to play the clip, but again, we're trying to get through it. And Iain's been a trooper, hanging in there. Like, I know he's starting to squirm in his seat, but he's hanging in there.
Keeping it down.
What a trooper. And yeah, I was going to play this, but the Boring Company, well, let's play this. It's kind of, this is going to be our last thing anyway for the week.
Pre-mining inspections complete. Starting cutter head.
Starting propulsion. Earth pressure nominal.
Liner truck arriving. Unloading segments.
Crane to bay 1.
Segment 1 engaged.
Flying to shuffler. Segment 1 on shuffler. Segment 6 on shuffler. Segment 1 engaged, going to position. Swinging to theta. Axioing out.
Erector homing.
Segment 2 presented. Segment 6 engaged, going to theta. Segment 6 race. Rainbow complete.
Good. Yeah, and we've heard about the mic, and we're working on that by, for Christmas, we're going to work on this so we get our sound all fixed up here. And maybe if you could write a letter to the CBC or the Liberals, say, can we have some of that $1.55 billion? What are they doing with it? They're surely not doing the story that they should be doing. How come they get?
Or even just give us a tax exemption so we don't have to pay. For the CBC, and we'll spend it on us instead.
Elon Musk, AOC, what Alexandria Cortez, whatever, I don't know her name, Cortez. Says that Elon Musk is not even an engineer, that he's just a failure. Well, for a failure, he's done some pretty cool things, right? Hey?
What's the psychology behind people like that? I just don't.
But she says
is it jealousy? I think it is jealousy ultimately, isn't it? Because it's like
screams
a refusal to acknowledge that he is just loads better than you. Basically, isn't it? That's what that is.
Screams it into the microphone at Congress, and then the government corrupted media there, or Democratic media there, just parrots it out there. There's a piece out there right now on Rivian that is a promo piece by Bloomberg, and it's just absolutely crazy. You can go watch that piece on pumping Rivian's tires. It's just a polished piece put out there like it was a news piece, how they're going to, they go after autonomous driving and all this stuff because he's got a new chip, and this guy's the most awkward CEO ever. I did put in an order for the R2 just because I want to see what it looks like. But just the bias sometimes is just tough to swallow.
It's the same with Waymo, isn't it? That's always getting boosted as a rival to cyber taxi or whatever, cybercab. It's always been put forward as like the safer option and the smarter option kind of thing. Well, obviously, a lot of people really have it in for Elon Musk, and it shows.
This failed engineer, according to Alexander Cortez there, AOC, he has created the only profitable EV car in the world, and I drive one for over 2.5 years. We have several in our family. They're best thing ever. Seems to be doing okay with Tesla, making billions of dollars in profitability. Not bad. SpaceX, the by far, and they can't even see second place with a telescope, like a space telescope. Can't even see second place on the space list and the payloads and that. And then Starlink, the largest global communications company in the world. Not bad, right? Neuralink, which is helping people, quadriplegics, use computers. And then it's gonna help blind people see and people walk again. And the Boring Company, I've been in the tunnels, and it's now cheaper to do tunnels in some areas than it is to do roadways. I don't know. And then XAI, He's built even Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says, like, he built a data center in weeks when it would have taken years. Imagine Canada building a data center, competing with Elon Musk. He'd be done by breakfast. And 12 years later, they'd be saying, well, where's the directions? What are we doing here again? Or they would be doing tons of photo ops saying that they are leading the world. Well, Elon's like, we've been running for the last 10 years. Crazy world, man. That's our show for the week, though. Again, please share, like, subscribe, comment. Tell us where you're from. Help us get the really big show out there, because we're doing, in my view and Ian's view, better work than the CBC. Go look at their website today. Look what we covered, and go see if you can find those stories. See what they're covering. They should be the TDS network. I mean, they're basically a propaganda network doing the work of the liberals, like feeding raw meat to the boomers. Like, who watches the CBC as well? And look at that. One thing going up in Canada, cost per viewership of the CBC, $1.55 billion, and viewership going down. Ours, we don't have $1.55 billion, and our viewership is going up. Every time you like, subscribe, independent media, reaching the world with the help of Starlink. That's our show.
You're sounding like P.T. Barnum there.
That's right. That's our show. Alex Trebek and P.T. Barnum. That's our show. And Ian does the best impersonations of maybe leave us with either Francois Philippe Champagne or Keir Starmer. You want to take us out today?
Okay. What would he say? I'm going to do Keir Starmer. What would Keir Starmer even say? We've had a really, really good evening, and we're all going to have an excellent weekend.
And then he's going to watch what you say at Christmas.
Yeah. But don't send any of those naughty tweets.
No memes. No memes. Watch what you say at Christmas, because you may find more than a coal in your stocking. You may find a few of the bobbies at the door saying, "Come with us." Who cares, right? There you go. That's our show for the week. We'll see you on Monday, 9 a.m. Thank you for watching Now Media.
Just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.